Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.
Welcome to the Orange is the New Black podcast. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, joined by my co-host, Zim. Zim, say what's up.
Hello, world. We got something really special for you tonight. I feel like I'm saying that a lot often lately, but I really mean it this time. We've got none other than Bengals writer Geoff Hobson coming on to the show, Orange is the New Black, tonight. This is a big thing for us. Geoff, can you please talk to the people, let them know how you're feeling tonight?
This is a big thing for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's big for me because I know you guys have the ear of Bengaldom. So I'm anxious to talk with you.
Definitely. So kicking it off, obviously today, the Bengals, and as we're recording this is Wednesday, April 7th. If you're watching this, it's probably on Thursday, but as of today, the Bengals released Gio Bernard. Geoff, what were your thoughts on that, and what do you think went into that decision?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, guys, just thinking the last 3 weeks, that's 3 captains they've released. Gino, AJ didn't get released, but he signed with Arizona, and now Gio. So it tells me there's a real shift going on in the locker room. It also tells me, they get a little tight under the cap with probably more than $30 million in salary cap dollars this year. Now I don't think they were clearing any room, but I think they're getting ready for you got August and September coming. That only means to me that's Jesse Bates and Sam Hubbard. So right. I'm thinking they're going to give both guys a serious run to extend, and we're probably talking a pair of $50 million contracts. So there's things to be done, and tough to lose the man. Gio's terrific on and off the field.
Right.
One of the most inspiring players in Bengals history, and one of the most productive. I mean, tough to lose a guy like that. But even he said today, I talked to him a couple hours ago, and he said, the numbers just didn't add up. It's a business, and I think they tried to renegotiate, maybe get a lower number. Didn't happen, but classy. I think they were both classy on both ends there, and it's tough. But I do think it does underscore where we're headed. I mean, that leaves Tyler Boyd as the most tenured player on offense, 71 games. Jordan Evans is the most tenured guy on defense, 60 games. So, the guys who have played the most Bengals games. So, with Joe Burrow coming in for his second year, Hubbard, Bates, Boyd, Mixon, that's your new leadership council right there.
That's new stripes. Let me ask you this. Why do you feel as though, I know and I read your article listed that you put out earlier. Why do you feel as though they waited that long to figure that out, if they were close or they felt like they were trying to restructure the contract and maybe it didn't make sense? Why do you think that they waited this long?
Well, I think, I don't know if they waited. I mean, I think they were trying to work with them, trying to also see what else was out there. I'm sure they tried to work a trade. So, there are a lot of things going on, a lot of balls in the air. I think Gio's going to get his shot. I don't think he doesn't seem miffed by the timing. I think that
was my next question.
Yeah, no, I think he knows he's going to get a shot. And I don't think, like I said, I think the whole thing was a mutual thing. Hey, we'll try to make it work for you. Didn't work. Let's move on. So
I guess from the outside in, for me, just looking at someone who did everything the right way, it just kind of strikes me as that the timing of it doesn't maximize its potential in the open market is the thing I'm saying. And I think you would have figured that out before that the numbers didn't add up. I just thought the timing of it was a little curious, but you said Gio didn't feel anyway.
No. I mean, and who knows? Maybe coming out now is better than coming out with everybody else. I mean, too, you get that secondary market too. Right. So, I don't think it's I didn't get any. didn't really get that from Gio, and I don't, you know, and
I don't even think you would get that from Gio, right?
Class act. And I think like Geoff hinted at too, and we knew this when we heard the report weeks ago. I think everybody forgot about it. They came out with the report saying that teams were calling about Gio. So maybe it was potentially that behind the scenes they were trying to make something work out and seeing what they could do. And maybe the offers that they were getting for him probably weren't beneficial. And maybe it could be, and this is just pure speculation, but let's say they wanted to trade him to a team that he didn't want to be on. Right. Gio could easily simply say, like, no, I'd rather, be released and essentially pick where my next destination is going to be at too. So I think, like Geoff is saying, it probably was just a mutual parting of ways, and maybe they tried to do some things behind the scene, but this was, I guess, the best resolution to it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I guess behind the scenes, we won't know, I guess, that point. But just piggybacking off of that, and you kind of alluded to the change in the guards. What do you see the impact of Gio, being released as it goes for this team going into the draft? Because from my end, I'm looking at now they're at about 24 mil under the cap. So yeah, they got to do those 2 contracts that you talked about. But where does that leave them when you say they're not done? Where does that leave them with free agency and their new approach maybe to the NFL draft?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure they've got that. I'm not sure they've got that much left, but because I think what they're doing now is they're trying to find guys at the right price, Right. But I think, as Duke Tobin said a couple of days ago, they're not looking to add a name just for a name if they think the guy's a legitimate upgrade. So it's been a little bit quiet on that front, I think where they're headed, I think that's I think what you're looking at is the draft, and then I think you're looking at extensions, and
do you think that? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you think they look at a running back position earlier, or do you think they're satisfied with P. Ryan and Mixon?
I think they like what they got there. Really, I think they like P. Ryan. That's why they signed him to a 2-year deal. I think the coaches like what they saw, late in the year, where he had the 95 against Houston. Not a great defense, but he looked good, and I think they feel like he can protect. Gio was tremendous at protecting the passer, one of the best blitz pickuppers in the league, and I think they feel like P. Ryan can also protect on third down. So. I think they feel pretty good there. They also have Travion Williams. They've got, and I think they really haven't seen. Patrick is an intriguing guy, 230 pounder, the rookie last year that made came from the other league, and I believe he was on the practice squad all last year. Now, so I really don't see them going after anybody. If they do, it would be late in the draft, I would think. But right. I think they feel pretty good at running back. One of the reasons they made the move with Gio.
Friend of the show, Jacques Patrick, by the way. Another thing that I want to ask you, Geoff, is we're good at running back, but what about H-back? Like, they let Ethan Carter go. Right. What is really the plan for, that H-back fullback position? Is there anything that you're kind of hinting at? Is that something that they may address in the draft, or just sign the guy, or how do they want to do that position?
Well, the way they work it, is, it's a tight end, and I think they like Uzomah and Sample. They don't use double tights very much. They usually use one tight end, and they seem pretty. Uzomah played 7 quarters with Burrow and seemed to have a pretty good rapport with him. When Sample came on, I thought Sample came on and had a pretty solid second half of the year as a second-year guy. So I think they feel all right at tight end too.
So when you say they feel comfortable at tight end, right? So one of the things is that I'm not a traditionalist in the draft. I go by a little bit of what history tells me. To me, what someone like a Kyle Pitts offers is far more than what a traditional tight end offers, right? That's not who I think the Bengals would pick. Yeah. But just based off of what is that someone that they would even entertain? Like, even if, let's say it's a trade back scenario or something, and they go back to number 8, number 9, something like that. Do you even think they even look at tight end at that spot?
Yeah, that's what I did a scenario on my mock draft where I call around the league and have the various beat reporters mock the draft, and that's what I did. But that was before Carolina traded for Donald.
Right.
I went to 8. I went to 8 to pick up their second rounder, which gave me 38 and 39. Went to 8. Chase and Sewell were gone, so I went with – I'm not a big taking a tight end that high because it just hasn't panned out down through the years. Why, I don't know. It's kind of a flighty position. Each tight end is used differently in each offense. You have to adjust. Whereas you stick in a Sewell or a Chase, boom, they're going to be playing a position they played in college. But yeah, you're right, Zim. Pitts is a guy you don't see come along very often. Right. Zach Taylor's an offensive guy. I'm sure he's salivating at a weapon like Pitts. But where that fits in with what this team needs right now at this point in time, that has to be considered too.
Definitely. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, Hobbs, is sometimes a lot of people think that you aren't super critical about the Bengals, but I have heard when you first started, it was the exact opposite. I heard that, you were very critical of the Bengals. How do you feel about people that say that about you, that you're just giving out lip service from wherever it's coming from? Because I've been told that wasn't the case when you first started.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I told people 20 years ago when I took the job, 21 years ago now, 21 years ago next week. Trying to cover the team the best way I can, Obviously, I work for the team, but I try to tell both sides of the story. Everybody's got an opinion on what their side of the story is, and that's fine. I just do the best. I just try to write what I see and get every tell their side. When I took the job, Mike Brown said, "I just want our side of the story out there." Well, it's his website, so sure, you probably put his side. I like to try to cover it from both angles. It's not what I'm trying to cover what they're doing. I'm trying to cover how they're thinking about the draft. I'm trying to cover who they think is good. Who cares what I think about Penny Sewell? Who cares what I think about Penny Sewell? I want to know what Frank Pollock thinks about Penny Sewell. I want to know what Steve Radicevic thinks about Penny Sewell or Duke Tobin. Now they don't tell you, but you gotta work to try and find out what it is. Who cares what I think about Jamar Chase?
I care, Geoff.
I'm not making the pick. You know what I mean?
But I care. Based on your 21 years with the team, knowing what works, knowing what doesn't work, people value your opinion. And I think in no matter how, and I understand your perspective, because it's not up to you to figure out ways to criticize or figure out ways on why something doesn't work when it's not your business. It's your job to cover it, right?
Right.
But based off of your experience, is Penny Sewell the person that you would take at number 5?
I would, because I'm an offensive line guy. But geez, I don't know what that's my personal preference, but I'm not making the call, and it's certainly no shot at Jamar Chase, who is, I talked to Kevin Coyle, who's the old Bengals secondary coach, who, is now a defensive analyst at LSU, and saw Chase every day. He loves the guy. After talking to, he says he's a can't miss guy. Who knows?
You're looking at captain. You're looking at the captain of Team Chase.
Captain of Team. Yeah, I know this. The Civil War is raging, and you guys had Fort Sumter, I guess, last week.
Right,
so
right.
I just don't want to be around for Gettysburg,
So you mean to tell you're not on Team Sewell Part 2, because that's coming.
Well, I'm just going to cover Appomattox. I'm just going to cover the end of it. I'm just going to cover the end of it. But yeah, you've been there. You guys have seen this team. You know when this team is at its best. Right. It's when Levi Jones was at left. It's when Willie Anderson was at right. It's when Whitworth was at left. It's when Andre Smith was at right. Okay, that's why Carson Palmer was able to come in and make an impact. Levi Jones on the left, Willie Anderson on the right. It's why Andy Dalton and A.J. Green were able to. I mean, that was a mess in 2011, right? There was a lockout. Dalton and Green never saw the coach. Couldn't talk to the coach. Never mind having a COVID test. I mean, they couldn't talk to the coaches. At least these guys could do a Zoom call. Green and Dalton, right? They walk in and they go 9-7. Why? Whitworth on the left, Smith on the right. So I mean, that's one of the big reasons. So personally, from what I've seen, I mean, I was at the tail end of their run in 90 and 91 and 92. And when they didn't have Munoz and when they didn't have Joe Walter, things started to turn. So put me down for Sewell, I guess.
Put him down.
But I love Jamar Chase, though.
I love Penei Sewell. And I even tweeted earlier today, this is how you get people like Team Chase involved with it, is when I think about the teams that just swept the division, it's that they ran the football and they ran the football effectively. And a lot of people this past year told me so many times, Jim, they can't run the football or whatever. And I was like, well, damn it, you better keep on running till you get really, really good at it. And if you draft Penei Sewell, the solution that I would have is be very, very good and be elite at that position group and turn into a position of strength and come back again and draft another offensive lineman, because the amount of guards that will be there in the second and the third round are at an all-time high to me. So the reason why I'm Team Chase is because I feel so strong about the guard play in the second and the third. But if you give me Penei Sewell, I say, cool, let's change the game plan. Let's block. Burrow doesn't get touched. I want to run 28 times a game. I never want to throw more than 30, and I'm going to go through the division that way. If they just get Penei Sewell, this is how I think it could fall flat on his face. You get Penei Sewell, say he goes out with a minor injury, say he has some learning curves, you're right back at square one with the same personnel that you had before. And that's the reason why I think a lot of Team Chase people aren't as high on Sewell as like maybe yourself.
And I just want to piggyback off of what we said before. I truly appreciate Geoff's perspective because he's giving you the Bengals perspective. A lot of people may not know exactly what the Bengals are thinking. And I think Geoff does a great job of tempering expectations so that people aren't just running all over the place with just random hot takes. He's actually giving the real thing there. But
well, Geoff, I'm just really, I mean, they don't tell me much. I'm trying to work it just like all the other guys, but I've had the benefit of seeing him do it for so long.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just there's nothing like experience.
Right. No, right. Correct. So, Geoff, I've got to ask you. I ask everyone when they come on the show, and we talked about this before the show. Usually I ask for a top 5, but you said that you want to do a Mount Rushmore of your favorite Bengals. So if you could provide that Mount Rushmore for everyone listening, we'd love to hear it.
Paul Brown, Anthony Munoz, Ken Anderson, A.J. Green.
Love it. I love it.
AJ.
Yeah.
AJ is that guy. He's on the cover of his book too. So
that's if he's on the cover of my book, I'm going to put him on Mount Rushmore.
Didn't even think about that.
It's also. Oh no, go ahead, Zim. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I didn't think you would say AJ. That caught me off guard a little bit.
Think about AJ because it kind of goes beyond the performance on the field too.
Right.
Paul Brown, obviously. Anthony bested his position, but also one of the great human beings. Ken Anderson played such an important position. I mean, he was, the guy won 4 NFL passing titles. Everybody who's done that has been in the Hall of Fame, clearly. And then, but AJ too, not only a great receiver, one of the best receivers in the decade that he played, but also he set the tone for that team. If you remember, and it kind of goes back to that 2011. It was a little bit, the previous decade, been kind of drama every day. You know what I mean? It was, if it wasn't this, it was that. I mean, Chad was kind of, Chad was great player, but he brought, it was a different style. Right. When AJ showed up, he brought his style, and he kind of, he was their version of no drama Obama. He was a different guy. He brought a different approach, and he kind of set the tone that way, and like Andrew Hawkins said it so well, the day that AJ signed in Arizona, I talked to Hawk for a story I did, and he was saying just AJ's personality. He was, he's such a great player, but the way he went about it, he went about, and Hawkins said, how could anybody on offense not, go hard all the time or to, just not have an ego, he didn't have an ego. He goes, and that was, those no ego Bengals, 2011, 2012, made five, those no ego guys made 5 straight playoffs and won 2 division titles. And I'm not saying the previous decade, the ego guys, they were a good blend of guys too, but it was just a different mixture. And AJ kind of said, so that's why he's on the Rushmore for me, because just kind of what he did, what his personality and approach to the game meant to that decade of Bengals football.
No, for sure. So you talked about the previous decade. I have to ask you, because this is just something that I wonder, and I'm not saying that you would know the answer to this, but obviously there are some bad feelings about Carson Palmer. Do you ever see an instance where there will ever be like any kind of reunion or any kind of thing where he comes back, maybe it's 10 years from now? Because, a lot of fans are still feeling some of those emotions, but it seemed that when they did the special last year with Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson kind of reuniting and them connecting with Joe Burrow, it kind of seemed to get some positive reception. So from your perspective, do you ever think that is a possibility?
Time heals all. Time heals all. I don't, not something that's ever talked about, but like I say, time heals everything. Would not be surprised to see Carson Palmer show up at Paul Brown Stadium. I wouldn't, he'd be, one of the great Bengals of all time.
Right.
This is the first time I thought about it, but he's certainly been gracious to me. He's always returned my phone calls. He's been, he's been fine with me. Who knows? Like I say, time heals all.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah. I guess if we're talking quarterbacks and we're talking about Carson Palmer and we're talking Ken Anderson earlier, now is this guy named Joe Burrow. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's been around here lately. And can you speak to, I guess, in the last 2 decades, as far as what you've seen thus far, how does Joe Burrow compare to the quarterbacks that maybe you had faith in Carson's heyday? Maybe you had a tremendous amount of faith in Ken Anderson's, heyday. Like, how does Joe compare to those guys?
I'm kind of at a disadvantage because I wasn't around him last year because of COVID.
Right.
Just saw him on Zoom conferences and saw him in the games. So you really, I had a feel for Palmer. I had a feel for Dalton. I had a feel for Boomer because I covered his teams. But I can tell you just from watching Joe and talking to his teammates and talking to him, the guy's got it. You know what I mean? I think he's got clearly what we saw on the field. Game against Cleveland at home. The 2 wins against Tennessee and Jacksonville should have won. If the guy
week one,
the Chargers, the opener. What great player like AJ Green gets that call against him in the last 7 seconds? So I think we've seen enough from Joe that he's the real deal, and he's a different kind of quarterback than anybody we've really had here. He's very athletic. He's moves around, but he's got a great intermediate accuracy. He's kind of like the best of he's got kind of the best of everything. He's got the Heisman pedigree at Carson.
Right.
He's got the winning toughness of Dalton. He's got the personality of Boomer. If we could give him Blake's long ball, which I think he will get eventually.
Yeah.
But I do think he looks to me like he's got a little bit of everything.
You know what sold me, and I can't wait till you get around him, and maybe you could, talk to Ace and just tell him, I just want to know about like your first interactions. Like me, one of the things that I did before they ever drafted him is I just watched interviews, and he has this cold stillness to him.
Yeah.
And I've been around a lot of people that have that not a lot of people, but very few people that have this cold stillness to them that they won't accept failure. And it's very few people I ever remember. I could count them probably on one hand and maybe use another finger. And I just feel like he represents something that the city needs that I don't think even on the field is something that a lot of people take into account for. And I can't wait to see, like, you know, how you feel about it when you get a chance to, like, look him in the eye. Because I think you're going to see something very, very special.
He may be the ultimate Paul Brown player. Act like you've been there before, you know, kind of like a nice little counter to Baker Mayfield's preening and dancing and careening around the field. I think I like his personality because I think his teammates loved him. You know, I thought he was terrific. Thought he really stepped up during the social justice stuff.
Right.
And I think he really connected with his teammates. I think he connected with the city. I've been, and I wish I had been around him because I've really been impressed with him as much really with the stuff he's done off the field to really establish himself as a good teammate. And I think he gets it. He gets what the position means, which is very important because some guys don't, and it can kill you. But this guy, not only does he understand, not only does he have the physical stuff to do it, but he knows what he's got to be.
Right. Zim, did you have a follow-up for that? Because I have.
I mean, he pretty much said it, but one thing that I hadn't thought about is, when some of the social reform stuff was first, like the first tweet that he put out, I almost forgot about that.
Right.
Time is so crazy. Like, that was very big. And as you were talking, it's something I think that a lot of Bengals fans need to pay attention to is that I feel like he can unify a lot of, like, I know we're having fun with Team Sewell versus Team Chase and stuff like that. He's the one guy. If he came out right now and just said, this is what we're going to do, guys, I think everybody just says, all right, Joe, we're going that way. Like, I just feel like he unifies, like, so many different audiences because he's not the celebratory, like you said, like Baker Mayfield, whatever. I'm pretty sure Joe will be excellent in commercials. Like, he's going to kill it. But he doesn't have that for, like, some of our older fans or whatever. I don't think that they're going to love the way that he celebrates and how he's gracious whenever he has success. And then he also ties in younger players, younger fans like myself or fans even younger than me because he's just cool as hell.
Yeah. He is cool as hell.
That's definitely.
Yeah.
So one item that we're working on right now is obviously the Ken Riley documentary. Obviously, there's a campaign to get him into the Hall of Fame. And if people don't know, you're very integral in that process. So for you, who are some Bengals that you could just throw out that you say are deserving of the Hall of Fame? Obviously, Ken Riley has to be one, and Willie Anderson. Are there any other ones that you would say should be at least in consideration for the Hall of Fame?
Oh, Ken Anderson by far should be. I mean, he should be. I mean, he should be in. Ken Riley should be in. Willie Anderson should be in. 3 guys, no debate. I also think Isaac Curtis. I don't think he's a debate either. But I mean, you'd have to. I mean, Kenny, the 2 Kennys and Willie, it's stone cold. Isaac, you might have to debate it, but I mean, there's a guy that changed the game for God's sake. Paul Brown went to the competition committee and said, get him to change the rules because Isaac Curtis was so good. More touchdowns and more catches than Lynn Swann and a longer yards per catch than John Stallworth. That's my man Ike. And then you go to, I think, another guy, Corey Dillon, I think, is a guy that, I don't think he's borderline. I think he's a guy. If you're going to put in Terrell Davis and if you're going to put in Edgerrin James, you got to put in this guy.
Right.
Dillon. Right. I mean, he's, he led one team. He's one team's all-time rusher, the Bengals, and he's another team's, I think, all-time single-season leader, the Patriots. Who that's the reason. The reason for one of those Tom Brady rings, one of the 7, is should have Corey Dillon's name on it because he got him that one.
Right.
So those are you can talk about Chad. I don't think Chad gets mentioned. We lose. Chad gets people forget about Chad was a hell of a player. There's only one receiver in this century that won a conference receiving yardage title 4 times in a row. Chad Johnson. The only other guy who ever did it was Jerry Rice. So people forget about that, about how good Chad was because of all the other stuff he brought. But those are just some of the names that ought to be. Willie, the two Kennys are stone cold, should be in. So should Isaac, but you'd have to debate it. You'd have to debate it. But and Corey, you'd probably have to debate it. But those are a couple guys.
Yeah, nah. I guess from us, you wouldn't hit any pushback from us because I'm all for those guys.
Anybody else? I mean.
No, for the Hall, that's it. And for me,
well, you know what? And I forgot.
AJ is like.
Well, what about Parrish? I mean, I'm sorry, like that's he should be. He's a stone cold. He should be in there too. I mean, 8 Pro Bowls. And I think he's had the best. I think he had the longest punt return average still since the merger. I think. So for one season.
My gut tells me the only way that 30% of those guys get in though are the Bengals have success right now. Do you think that's any relevance to that?
I do. Unfortunately, I do think that's true with the voters. I mean, I'm the Cincinnati voter on the Hall of Fame committee. There's I want to say there's 48 selectors. There's 30. There's one from each town, 32, and then there's 16. There's 16 at-large votes. So yeah, I do think I do think it. If your team's hot, that helps you. I do, and it shouldn't obviously, but I do think that they probably got a better shot if things are going well for the parent, for the present club.
Definitely. Well, Geoff, we appreciate you stopping by. We truly appreciate you spending this time with us. Let people know, obviously, if they don't know where to find your stuff. I don't know why they're even watching this, but let people know where they can find your stuff and what they can look forward to coming from Geoff Hobson and Bengals.com.
I appreciate it. That's where I've been living for the last 21 years. That's my address, Bengals.com. I pretty much only tweet those story links. Geoff Hobson CIN on Twitter. I pretty much only tweet the links, and but that's we got a lot of stuff going on here. There's coming up with the draft, so we'll try to delve into that. I'll try not to give you my opinion. I'll try to give you what they're.
I would love to hear. I like hearing your opinion. I mean,
I like hearing this opinion.
Like part of women.
I'd rather hear your guys' opinion.
Well, you know where we're at.
I know you got Chase. What do you got, Ace?
I got Sewell. I got a rep team. So I'm not opposed to Chase though. I'm not opposed to Chase either. But for me, it's if I had to order it, I'd probably say Panay. I'd even say Pitts and then Chase. I think either way though, I'm good with all three.
Yeah,
I'm probably good with all three. I mean, I'm not going to turn away any of those guys. And just because I said I'm on Team Sewell doesn't mean I don't love Chase.
Right, exactly.
Right. I can see a path either way, but you gotta go in and you can't half-ass.
Think about the trade down though. What if you get three players in the top 50?
Then you could sell me on a bunch of guys, honestly, because to me, but that's the thing about having a top 5 pick, and I think that's what Duke Tobin was alluding to is we don't want to get ourselves out of getting an elite talent. No. And the drop off, it's a pool that goes from 8 to 20 something where you could kind of sell me on a bunch of guys. It's pretty wide for me once I get past the 8-9.
Well, it's like Ace. I was talking to Ace. I was talking to somebody today who said, hey, where did they get Leon Hall? Where did they get Jonathan Joseph? Where did they get Jermaine Gresham? Where did they get Eifert? We could do it that way and stack it up. Hey, as you were saying this about Twitter or whatever the other day, because I said that last year, right? And I didn't tweet it all. My one challenge to you, this is my first time ever speaking to you. I want you tomorrow to wake up and randomly just tweet whatever comes to your mind. Do it. Just say something I'm not saying it has to be something shocking. You could just say, I just had the best cup of coffee today. And I bet you people will go crazy off that tweet.
Oh, they would love it if Geoff tweeted
I'm
something.
telling you, just say something. Like I want to see. Like
I'm petrified of Twitter.
do you
I
even,
used to be too.
when people mention you, do you actually see the mentions or you just don't
No.
respond to them?
I did that for 1 month in 2009. Worst month of my life.
Really?
Okay, gotcha.
2009 is one of my favorite teams too. Y'all were talking about teams earlier, or
Oh,
you were
yeah.
talking that in between 2009.
Division champs.
Favorite
Oh,
team of all time. 2009.
Love that team.
Best team of all time. Cedric Benson. Love Cedric
Oh,
Benson.
love Cedric
Love that
Benson.
team.
Love Cedric Benson. He was like the symbol of that team. He'd been left for, his career was on the trash heap, and he showed him exactly what he was all about. Just like that entire team did. Zimmer was like that. We didn't get he get kicked to the side in Atlanta.
Right.
Crocker was left for dead. He'd been cut by Miami. It was. I love that.
That was a great team.
Man, I'm right with you, Zim. That was a great team.
Great.
And it was when Chris Henry died and they had to deal with that, and it was just Zim's wife died. I mean, it was just it was an amazing run. It was an amazing run.
It really was.
I'm right with you on that one.
Definitely, for sure. Zim, was there anything that you wanted to?
Just keep on supporting guys like Geoff doing his job. People don't go on his Twitter mentions giving him hell. He's with us. He's with us.
Be nice. Be nice, guys.
It's all right. I love the fan. The fans are the best. I love them. That's just comes with the territory, man. This comes with territory.
Bengals.com, as always. Make sure you check us out. Ace at New Stripe City on YouTube. Check me out. Zim Hude on Twitter. Zim_Hude on Instagram. ZimHude.com. Ace, it has been real doing this with the legend himself, Geoff Bush Hobson. Is there anything you want to close it out with?
The only thing that I have to close it out with is a yes.
Sirski!
Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat